Okay, this goes, and this is a little bit more around the same era of the late 1800s, which was the women's rights movement, the women's suffrage. And one of the most well known is Susan B. Anthony. I mean, some people like her, some people really hate her. One of the things was she did a lot of involvement with unions that were being created, and at the time of the unions, they were trying to get African Americans that were free, that were just free from being slaves, and they were trying to get working class farmers and women for the first times. This actually happened in forever because unions were just forming in the 1800s, well, for at least in the United States. And they had a really broad branch of coalition to bring to everybody together. And some people, not gonna lie, were still sexist. I mean, it was the 1800s, and so Susan B. Anthony was trying to, as best she could, to work and form for unions. Well, basically a women's caucus, almost this kind of later spun off to creating, I think, multiple and a lot of women's unions, just specifically. See, this is what happens, kind of, in a lot of these stories where these unions get formed and become a middle class, essentially, where the professions were essentially like doctors, writers, and teachers. And that's what some of these unions became, middle class professions, which is, I feel like, is a good thing, but it was missing some of the points. So some unions had different scopes, and they focused really on farming. Some focused on industrial. Some focused on publishers, and this is one of them that focused on mostly publishers and teachers. And Susan B. Anthony, as best she could, she tried to get in with I think this is the AFL or the National Labor Union. She worked with the National Labor Union, and she started to form the Working Women's Association, which did lead to more unions being created and more job fairness, wage compensation, getting more jobs for women in fields that they might not have had to begin with, textile mills, for example, things like that. It's actually really nice and really great. She also had help with from Elizabeth Staton. I can never get that name right. Staton. I am tripping up. Yes, it is Staton. Okay. And that was almost as smooth as this uh, segue. And now, let's hear it from a sponsor. Hey, I am Darren, obviously. So I'd like you to check out this other channel who's also a leftist. She's really great. She just came up with a new video about um, Biden's crime bill, which is fun. You should really check it out. It'd be really great, and you would enjoy it if you also like the content I make. Might stick around, actually. Okay, and that brings us right to early 1900s with Eugene V. Debs, one of the founding members of the Industrial Workers of the World, which is one of the biggest unions in the world, which is amazing. It is great if you have. It is still active today, to this very day, with members all across the globe. If you are not in a union, I highly suggest just reaching out to IWW, which is the International Workers of the World. That's essentially what it is. It's not even industrial anymore. But he was also a trade unionist, political activist, writer, speech giver. He started his early political career in the Democratic Party, and then he realized that he couldn't get anything done. So there was the Socialist Labor Party, or Socialist Party of the USA. That's what he was a part of, and he was I think he ran 5 times. He was the nominee, the SPUSA. SP USA, Socialist Party USA. And I mean, he ran against FDR. He ran in prison. Fucking amazing. And this guy, his leadership and charismaticness to everything was a very, very, like, apparently it was just a very calming, fierce um, call to action, because he didn't want to be a leader. He saw it as if no one else is going to step up, he had to do it, which I think is very courageous in a way. And I used he also essentially he also was he didn't like organized religion too much. Um, but anyways, he was this great leader intentionally for for one reason that I really like, is that he thought of himself as not a messiah, not a Moses, not a follow me and I will guide you to the promised land of socialism. It was more of, you have to use yourself, your hands, your mind, your body, to go and enact the policies and revolution that you want. Not just follow a leader, but become yourself as a leader. You, as an individual, with your brothers and sisters in arms, have to go out and fight for the changes that you want, which is something we should be able to learn to this day. Uh, Another thing to add was the reason he got arrested was under the Station Act in 1918, which is basically if it unconstitutional as hell, because it essentially was, if you shed any negative light on the war or any effort of the government, essentially, in a negative light, then you could be arrested. And again, think about this. At the time, 1912 to almost 1920 was one of the biggest times of socialism in the country. There's also one. I mean, right after that, since all those policies and all those people were very much involved in politics, we had also one of the biggest economic booms in the country. And in the 1930s, it went crashing down for a multitude of reasons. Well, late 1920s, it went crashing down. But no correlation, right? Yeah. So he was cleared. I mean, it was almost like he was tried for treason in a way, because he spoke out against um, the war. He spoke out against everything. It's this weird thing. It's really weird. And this is also starting to get to our first Red Scare within the United States of, oh shit, there's socialist in America. That's we've had multiple Red Scares, which is weird if you think about it. Like, it's like, hey, and then you got a whole bunch of fucking conservatives nowadays. Oh, where's your policies or social ever worked at? America? They've worked in America? Like, think about if some fucking dumbass, right, was like, where have your policies ever worked? America. They've been working in America for generations. You probably benefited off of some of them. If not you, maybe your family. Kind of strange, don't you think about it? Now, a lot of these people like perceive that socialism's so bad, even though you have to partially thank them for all the unions, giving you better wages. A lot of union, you gotta also remember, a lot of union members died. And I'm trying to keep this video very, very short, and I think I'm already going over time, but geez, it's a lot. I have to carry all this stuff up pretty fast. I will go over history another time. More history. I'll probably talk about more stuff in a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna have to probably break some of these chapters. And yeah, going. It's really mostly strikes. People, again, died, and the government basically would have people get would send troops and the state on IWW and other socialist movements. Which, I mean, this is a common occurrence where the state and the country will send cops, police, everybody after these socialists, anarchists, and trade unionists to just keep them down. They kept fighting. They kept going for a change. That's how it should be. If you want change, especially in this country, if you want change, you have to keep fighting for it. You can't just stop. That's something we should be striving for today. Keep going. Keep trying to enact policies or whatever change that you want to see in this world, in this country, in this time. We need that spirit. We need that spirit back, and I think we're finally seeing it. I think we're finally seeing a resurgence of that spirit in this country, and it's fucking great. It's I mean, it's amazing, and this leads to the Communist Party USA, CPUSA, which some were actually a decent amount of lawyers actually within the CPUSA, which was very good in this time because when the NAACP, some of their cases they didn't see the time for, which is sad, especially because that means limited resources, right? Limited resources and time. So the CPSA would make more organized defense cases and would actually start to fight for Black lives within within the community, within national efforts to actually run, because at the time a lot of socialists had newspapers throughout the whole country. I mean, Oklahoma had a pretty big population of socialists. Texas, California, Chicago, obviously, New York, obviously, but there were southern states that had a lot of rural socialists in like rural counties because they didn't want industrialization. They wanted to keep themselves. They wanted this great benefit of you know farm labor, of being self-sustaining, and that's what these socialists provided for them. They provided co-ops. They provided resources and a way of life that would be beneficial to them. I mean, we don't really see that now, which is really sad in a way that a lot of socialists and communists now are very focused on cities, which I understand. There's a lot more population, a lot more grass we could do, but I think we should focus on rural towns and everything that we used to. And I mean the DSA build is one of the decent caucuses that seem like they tried to do rural community building, which we should. We should provide efforts to help rural communities. It's not a whole bunch of like rural communities aren't just a whole bunch of fucking white races. Like we have to go in there, meet them on ground level, and find common ground and work towards solutions that benefit everybody. Because if the government forgets about the fucking people, that's one thing. But if the people forget about them, that's another. That is totally unjustifiable in all instances. And we need to work together to have a better society. Okay, let's go back a little bit too. And did y'all know that the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance, written by Francis Julius Bellamy, who was a Christian socialist, American Christian socialist minister and author. That's his title. That's his big title. And he basically was in charge to write the pledge was essentially a marketing scheme in a way, to sell more flags to the schools, and the pledge was meant to be a call for somewhat of a nationalism, but it was to basically have a spirit, right, of the working class people of all within America to come together and be awesome to each other. Yeah, right. Be totally awesome to each other. Bill and Ted is Excellent Adventure. Okay, or is it Be Excellent to Each Other? Can't remember. But anyways, this is the he wrote the pledge. Um, it was great, and then later on, this is kind of why I'm kind of bringing it coming. I'm going to there and bringing it back to the mid 1940s, 1950s, when they took the pledge, added God in there, because hey, you know what? If you're a communist, you don't like God. If you're a socialist, you don't like God. Just put God into every little thing, because we gotta be God, and it went into the Red Scare number 2 during the Cold War, and it's this weird thing that it happened, and it's weird because people say it didn't. In America, we've had socialists since forever within America, fighting for people like us, the regular people. I don't see how this is any different. It's not. It's the same. It really is. Um, but yeah, like like this his were the rights of working people and the equal distribution of economic resources, which he believed it was inherent in the teachings of Jesus. And he did preaching against the evils of capitalism. Yeah. Oh, and then he stopped attending church because of the racism he witnessed there. And he was considered to be an early American democratic socialist. And he also described Jesus as a socialist. Again, okay. This is just I'm going through this history, and it's more of like we need to go back to this kind of stuff. The left in America needs to go and fiercely push back against the right. We need to say to them that religion is not just for right wing Christians or right wing whatever religion you are. This is ours also. We gotta preach. We gotta preach to the folk, not just the choir. We gotta preach to everybody in masses. We gotta just go. You see how much evangelicals to start stupid shit sometimes, and they make money, they make bank. We need to go and meet them at their level. That's what I keep saying. We need to keep and go and meet them at the level. We used to do it, and you used to start and make really big groups of people and just bring people into the fold, bring them into this thing that we used to do all the time. And this leads to the Red Scare, or the second Red Scare, of you know, so of socialist influence, communist influence, and based on the McCarthy era, where you got questioned if you were a communist sympathizer, just in, basically interrogated by the government and private panels. Just you didn't even have to be a fucking socialist. You said to be accused. It was basically fucking playing the snitch game. They didn't like if someone didn't like you or someone to ruin your fucking career. They'd be like, "Well, he's a socialist," and they'd be like, "Oh shit, we better follow this motherfucker." Sorry, I'm trying not to cuss so much, but yeah, um, it's just insane. And then you also had the Young People's Socialist League, which had to be dissolved at this time. Or, well, dissolved. It went underground for the most part. The Young Communist League also kind of was underground too. And I'm a very big fan of movies at this time, where in like the 1950s, 1960s, and they showed the what communists would think, and like just this very like it was all about Russia. That's all it was, like Soviet Russia, Soviet Russia, Soviet Russia. Like it was propaganda. These films flopped. I Married a Communist. My son John was one of them too. There's a lot of movies in this time period that was just Red Scare propaganda. I like them because it's kind of like looking back, kind of funny, and it's like just a lot of things. You're like, okay, this is really weird. Because they're like, well, we need to unite the people, and even back then, they basically were like, well, you know what? These people, if they don't get their way, they're just gonna go to violence. Really? Basically, it's like, well, if they don't get their way with the unions, you're just gonna go do violent acts. They'll just do violence. If you don't follow them, they'll do violence on you. That's yes, yeah. Totally. It's not like the state ever tried to kill them or anything, or question them, or do investigations or anything. No, it never happens. Reason why I very strongly don't trust the government sometimes, or a lot of times. Because they do shit like this. I mean, there's the Socialist Federation that got fucking dissolved. There was not okay. There was the Catholic Worker Movement. There was which did basically nonviolent direct action towards the homeless people. They basically gave aid to homeless people. They gave nonviolent direct action to lots of people. Direct action is the idea of taking away, of not needing the government or anything else to do the work. Whether it's feeding the homeless people, that's direct action. Just helping people. That's fucking direct action. Again, sorry, I'm not trying to cuss too much in these videos. But then you got into like the 1960s, 1970s, and it was the civil rights movement, and then it helped. It was considered the new left, since the old left was kind of the whole Red Scare baiting and everything else like that. And the was I mean, there's the Progressive Labor Party was formed, and there was a lot of like. So we had a whole bunch of like late. Okay, again, this is a big problem with the left, and Noam Chomsky talked about this in his book, and talks in his book on anarchism, and it's basically how the left kind of cannibalizes itself, and it does. We split. We if we don't agree on something, we splinter off into sometimes hundreds of groups. 20s, 10s, like splinter off into groups if we don't agree on one little fucking thing. Why I don't believe we should do that, and we should. This is kind of why I like the DSA in a lot of ways, because it's a big tent umbrella of different types of caucuses and organizations with the same goal essentially. If you have not joined, you should probably join the DSA. If you are even remotely left leaning, it's a great organization that has, I think, 70,000 members now, it's growing. It's great. I mean, we don't inflate our numbers of organization members or campuses like some other orgs do, but we're still pushing forward. And yeah, so the new left was considered to be counter-revolutionary, or not counter-revolutionary, more like not status quo, because if you think about the 1950s, 1960s, it was very conforming. It was very conforming. There was race issues still there. The Black Panther movement, the original Black Panther movement, with Huey P. Newton, who was heavily influenced by Marx and Mao, actually. And this guy was a lawyer, or he studied law. He wanted to be a lawyer, studied law, and in California. And there was, it was one of the first types of services in the Black Panther movement to create, child care programs. Because at the time there was no social programs especially for Black people. There weren't. So the Black Panthers stepped up. They did it. They had chapters all over the fucking country, um, to help like impoverished people, help especially kids. For there was daycare, there was after school care, there was free breakfast for kids and families, in some cases. And especially like there was arm training, self defense training, public policing, essentially, where they would actually go in cars and have a police scanner and go out and follow cops with guns. I mean, this is also a time of MLK Jr. MLK, who did peaceful protesting, and he came out and said he was a fan of democratic socialism. Malcolm X was a revolutionary at the time, and he was a fan. Maybe not Marxism, but he was a fan. He was an anti-capitalist. Lots of these people were anti-capitalist. Maybe not socialist. They were definitely anti-capitalist. Some of them, it's the default, or some were socialist. Malcolm X was a socialist. These things were going on at this, like everything at the same time, and the government got scared, as it should. I'm not gonna lie, the government should be afraid of its citizens because we have the power, and we should have the power. Um, and this keeps going and keeps going, and we helped fight, like socialists, communists, anarchists, helped fight for civil rights, for blacks, for gays, for trans, queer, um, everybody. I mean, yeah, for the working class. And it's been happening throughout the U.S. history. And to say we'll never be a socialist country is the stupidest fucking argument in the world. Because that just means you don't know history. We've been here forever. We'll continue to be here. This isn't just not. This isn't just to have a socialist America. This is to have a better America. And this leads up to you also never had a president. But hey, that could be because of the two-party system or anything else like that, where it's kind of hard without a lot of money to actually do anything. This kind of, and then I'll probably touch on. It's probably where I'm gonna stop the video because there's some other. I mean, I'll just skip ahead a little bit and just be like, hey, we have a new left. I think that's what's considered the progressive era of the left. For less, some people still like to abolish capitalism. Some people just want liberal policies. Join the DSA. That's all I'm gonna say. That's my recommendation to all of y'all. But in this part of history, in the 1970s, it's less about. I mean, we never won any presidencies. We stopped running candidates. I think in like the late 80s, early 90s, for president from the CPUSA, SPUSA, and stuff like that. And I think we still run candidates under the PSL, but that's pretty much it. And this part of there's more to do with history. I'm probably covering another video about a little bit about conservatism and their youth movement from the 70s to like the 90s to into this day a little bit. But I might do another video and how. I mean, hey, look, how much fucking shit they do. You gotta admire their youth build. They get more. Typically every conservative organization gets more money than progressive orgs, and they have less people. Generally, I guess total they have less people. So it's more money, less people. That means more resources per person. And where it's most liberal and progressive organizations, they have more people, less money, and it can do less. Like with more people, less resources, that is a losing battle that we need to fix. And there's multiple ways to do it. I probably will do another video explaining this a little bit, just how progressive versus conservatism in a different video. But catch y'all later. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe below or to the left or to the right. I do not know what platform this is going to be on, so like, subscribe, share. Check out our Anchor page. Check out our Twitter page. Check out my page. Check out everything you want to check out. Check out me. I don't really care. I'm kind of good. But yes. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Peace.